Hi everyone, this is Steve with Mesa Properties again, and thank you for joining us if you're on Facebook Live, and if you're seeing this later, thank you for joining us as well. We're on episode 2 of our destructive tenant video, and I'm going to take you through this house. We haven't begun to do the restoration process, but the bulk of the trash out has already been done. So we're going to walk through, I'm going to point out some things, and just so you know, disclaimer up front, I want you to know we did not place this tenant. We are managing several properties for this owner, and we took this property over with this tenant in place, and we're now working through this process. So for those of you that are using us for management, this is not typical for us, but we're pretty good at handling even these situations when they go wrong. So one of the things that I showed you before, other than all the trash in the house, is if you walk over here and you can see this vehicle, and there's a couple things. It's full of the tenant's stuff, and we've actually never had a car really of this caliber being left on somebody's home. As an aside, you hear those dogs barking? They're driving me crazy. Hopefully you can hear my audio beyond them barking. They're not part of this property, they're the neighbors. But that being said, this car has a value of greater than $700, and why that's important is if a tenant leaves stuff on a property, and as long as it's under a value of $700, and that's really a judgment call on the part of the landlord, you can go ahead and dispose of it. You can use it for your own purposes. If a guy leaves a big flat screen and it's under 700 bucks, you want it, it's yours to have. The problem comes when you have tenant stuff that's left like this, where it's a car. The value obviously is greater than 700 bucks, and we have to dispose of it. So we have to give the tenant notification of the property, of the car, and then we can have this car towed. And then if they want the car back, they have to redeem the car by paying the towing fees and storage fees. That's legal, but we can't just get rid of the car, or I can't just start driving this car, which I think is a Jaguar. Correct. Yeah. So if any of you want a Jaguar cheap before we tow it on Friday, and you're willing to store it for a while, call me and we'll hook you up. It's full of stuff too. So let's go inside and take a look at some of the things that our vendor Sam Manahan has done, and he's really done a good job so far. But there's still a lot of work left to do. Okay. If you remember my last video, I pointed out that the damage, and one of the things is this house, as bad as it is, and this whole rehab, by the time we're done, carpet, paint, and trash out, and final cleaning, is right around $10,000. So you've got to ask yourself the importance of placing a good tenant. Is it worth taking a risk and potentially having an expense like this if you take a shortcut and not do proper vetting? You're not always going to get everybody who's not a good tenant, but you need to make sure that you can minimize the risk of this happening. In terms of this repair, the reason I'm standing in front of this one is really, other than this hole and a couple other things that I'll point out upstairs, the damage was not that extensive. Carpet and paint, yeah, you have to do, but they could have gone after and ripped off doors on cabinets and things like that. That gets very expensive because this build was probably sometime in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, so a lot of the styles have changed. And you'll see honey oak colored cabinets. They don't make those anymore for homes, so it gets very expensive to replace them. Sam, I don't know if you can drop down here and see what's going on down here, but this is a fill toilet valve. And the reason this is being replaced is because the toilet leaks. The reason the toilet leaks is because this particular tenant uses Tidy Bowl, and Tidy Bowl is it's a blue bowl, makes people feel good because it's keeping everything clean, but it eats away plastic. And so a lot of times if you use Vanish or Santa Flush or Tidy Bowl, any of those kind of things, you're gonna have a problem with your toilets leaking on an ongoing basis. So just as a tip, make sure that your tenants aren't using that, and if you're using it at home, just get a scrub brush and some comment and clean your toilet once a week. You should be fine. Okay. Not that I'm telling you how to clean your house, but it's still a good suggestion. So I don't know if we can get in here and see the toilet, but anyway, this is just kind of what's left before the cleaning happens. Kind of looks like a public restroom at a beach after 4th of July weekend, which is not someplace you usually like to sit down, but that's okay. If you remember, before we had a big couch here, and our folks were recyclers, so we got rid of all that junk. There's still a little bit of debris in the middle here, and then all this stuff is here. So I'll just walk you through real quick. The backyard has not been done to any substantial way, but so there's still a smoker, there's remnants of a pool, although the top layer of the pool went out. We'll get the rest of that stuff out pretty quick. If you remember the garage, where all of us like to keep some extra things. That's now been cleared out. I went ahead and opened the door. Sam, if you can just kind of do a quick pan there. So we've got the clean out of the garage done. And we just got to do the brooming and all that, and they'll do that after they paint it and get everything ready. So there's that. Again, if you look at these cabinets, I mean, everything's dirty and it's kind of, you know, disgusting, but it's in good shape. I mean, these cabinets are going to be able to be cleaned up and used again, which is great news. Let me take you upstairs to one thing I want to point out. Be careful on this carpet. Don't touch anything. It's kind of still gross. Again, these cabinets are in great shape, so that's a good thing. If you come in here, one thing I want to point out, you'll notice that both of these closet doors are missing, okay? In this case, the tenant actually took them off. I'm not sure why people do this, but when we have rough tenants, it's a pretty common thing for people to do, is to take these off. These are very expensive to replace. Number one, they're glass, and number one, they're oversized. They're not a standard 6 or 7 foot closet door. These are, I don't know, maybe 8, 8.5. They go floor to ceiling. So great news that they didn't damage this one. However, let me take you over to this other room real quick. If you look over here, I've got a slider sliding back and forth, and the other one is missing, and also the rims on it are busted up. So we're probably, even though we have this one in place, we don't have a second one. They only sell these in sets, so they're going to have to buy another set of these sliders, and they're very expensive to replace. The other thing that a lot of people do if they're rough on a property is they thrash your screens. And screens can actually be very expensive if they do every screen in the house. Maybe they're popping the screen off and bending the frame, or maybe you just show up and it's gone. A house of this size, you're looking at probably $500 to $700 to replace all of the screens, and potentially even more if you're talking about a couple of sliding glass doors. This house only has one, so hopefully it won't be that bad. And in this case, the sliders are still available. The screens are still on most of the windows. If you go in here, if you remember, we had the human target here. That's all been cleaned up and pulled out. I don't think we actually took you into this bathroom, but Sam, if you just take a quick spin around, I mean, again, cabinets are in pretty good shape. Countertops are dirty, but they don't, I mean, we've had them where they've had burns on them, and then it really looks bad. This place is really gonna clean up pretty well for the next tenant. Same thing with the glass doors. They're heavily coated with probably just soap scum, and we should be able to clean those off really well. And really, that's it. The next time we're going to show you this one will be when the property is done and it's rent ready, and you'll be able to see the transformation. And then we'll also be able to give you an update on the cost. As I mentioned before, the total cost on this rehab right now is just under $10,000. It's probably going to come in somewhere around that range. So if you have any questions, you can talk to us on Facebook. Otherwise, if you ever want to have property management services, we're happy to help you out. You can check us out online on Facebook, mesaproperties.net, all of that stuff. So thanks for joining us on this brief Facebook Live session.